All right, that was interesting. I was, John had said that Bruce had been doing a great job up until now getting good speakers. But thank you for having me out here. I absolutely love Alcoholics Anonymous. Congratulations to all the CHIP people, the birthday people. And my sobriety date's July 5th, 1984. So I'm coming up on a big one. And don't want to get ahead of myself, but feel pretty good. I'm very busy in Alcoholics Anonymous, and something funny today. So I'm getting older, right? And so old people kind of nod off and stuff. And my daughter just got into medical school, and so she wants to be a doctor. Will be a doctor, and so she's talking to me today about bacteria. Your body has good bacteria and bad bacteria. And, this typically isn't a topic that interests me, But it's my daughter, and I'm, want to pay attention and encouraging and listen to her and stuff. And I'm not, oh, okay, wow, I didn't know that, And next thing, my eyes start getting heavy. And I'm like, oh, no. I can't hear anything she's saying now. What I'm thinking about is keep your eyes open. Do not fall asleep. Next thing I hear, Daddy, did you just fall asleep? And I remember when I was new, there was a guy, Marvin L., he's since passed away and stuff. He would nod at the meetings and stuff. And we were new and we were young when we got sober. And a bunch of guys like, hey, Marvin's back on the H, on the heroin. He's nodding out. And I'm like, I don't know, Marvin ain't that young. Old guys kind of nod out. But so anyway, so I was, and that happened to me a while back with my sponsor, and he's just going on and on and on about something. I'm over his house, and next thing I hear, hey, Mike, are you okay? Apparently I'd fallen asleep while he was talking, anyway, I'm really glad to be here. I love Alcoholics Anonymous, and just so much good stuff has, happened to me over the years. It's, I got a brother, Steve, coming out here. He's a year younger than me, and he's been in 5 rehabs in 6 months. He goes in, and he goes into a rehab, and he's there about a week, and he finds fault with everybody. Everybody's doing something wrong. Like, screw this place, I'm out of here, and he leaves. And so after like the 4th rehab, he realized the problem was he was going to rehabs too close to home because he could just leave, go home and drink. He's retired now. So he found a rehab 4 hours away from his house that his girlfriend had to take him to, and he's like, this should do it. And he did. He stayed there the whole 90 days, and he got out, and just everybody was doing something wrong, and I'm talking to him, and I used to listen to him, and finally now I just say, hey, Steve, man, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear what somebody else is doing to you. We started talking, and he was complaining about his girlfriend screwing up the banana nut muffins. I'm like, Steve, she's trying to do something nice for you. Just go say thank you. Just go say, you don't know how to say thank you, And so anyway, so he's coming out here, and I got another brother that's sober. We got sober young. My brother Nathan got sober at 19. He's just took a cake for 39 years. And so we were talking, and I was talking to him, and I said, I was talking to Steve, my drunken brother, and I think the fight's kind of coming out of him. And Nathan goes, no, I was just talking to him. He's got plenty of fight left in him. So, it's going to be interesting having him out here because it's pretty tough to tell him anything, and we'll see. I think Southern California, we're in the Super Bowl of Alcoholics Anonymous. If you're going to get sober, this is the place. There's absolutely the best spot, I think, in the world to get sober. There's so many great meetings, great sobriety and people and stuff, and things to do. And so anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll start at the beginning, and I grew up, I was born in New York. I grew up in Jersey. I was a short, fat kid, and my nickname was Whale. And to make things worse, my mom had us on the swim team. And let me tell you something. Little fat boys have no business being in a Speedo. I felt like everybody I felt like everybody was looking and laughing at me, and I swam like a rock. I just did not fit in, and just, you look at all these guys, the guys who are on the swim team, and, they all look good, and here I am, I look like some sort of buoy or something like that, and it seemed like the lifeguards were over on the side of the pool flipping a coin saying, heads I go get 'em, tails you go get 'em, and so I had, my childhood just consisted of, I grew up in a house. My mom had 6 kids in 7 years, 5 boys and a girl. All the boys were alkies. 3 of us are sober. Another one's trying to get sober. And another one week, yeah, I'm an alkie. Next week, no, I'm not an alkie. But my dad passed away. He was 48 years sober, and so I grew up in a very competitive situation. My dad, I found out that the year he took the bar exam in New York, he got the highest score on the bar exam out of everybody that took it in the state of New York. So he's a brilliant guy. And then there was my older brother, who he was a straight A student. One of his friends said to me one time, he goes, if your brother couldn't be the best, he'd probably cry. And he ended up going on to the Harvard Business School. And then there was me, who, and I'll tell you, the problem was, I'll give you an example. When I was a kid, I was on a baseball team, and it was a championship game. The score is 0-0. There's 2 outs. The bases are loaded, and it's the bottom of the last inning. I got up and hit a grand slam. And the way I was treated after the game was the way I wanted to be treated all the time. And I believe us alkies have this thing inside us that says, treat me special starting now. And so you can tell I'm going to have a problem with reality, because nobody was treating me special. You do one thing nice, you're not going to live the next 20 years being treated special on that. And I heard a speaker say one time, if you treat me special, I feel average, and if you treat me average, I feel neglected. And I always felt neglected. Now, I had to get attention. My brother got it through getting straight A's. Certainly my old man got it through, his accomplishments and stuff like that. So if I was to get an A in school, mind you, it would just be like, well, that's what you're supposed to do. Or if I was good at sports, well, that's what you were supposed to do. So I went in the opposite direction. I was more of I got attention, the negative attention, and I got a lot of it because I got into a lot of trouble. I remember the teacher, this teacher one time, I was in 6th grade, and she takes me out into the hall, and she goes, Mike, they're laughing at you. They're not laughing with you. And I remember thinking, you got a really nice figure, so I'm going to give you a pass on this one, and not be pissed at you this time. Getting a little bit hot. But thank you. So, and then the other thing I had trouble with was, my dad did his undergraduate work in the seminary, so we were always in church, and this guy was like way too intense about this, to the point where I just shut down. I did not get what everybody was talking about. They're looking up and they're all happy and stuff like that. And, the book talks about how we spend our time criticizing the people in church and not noticing how much better they're doing than us. And that's what I did. I was always criticizing them. I absolutely did not feel like I fit in. I remember coming out of confession, I'd feel guiltier than when I went in, because I'd be like, I'd be lying to the priest. I'd be like, yeah, Father, I only lied one time, maybe 2 last week. I don't remember. I lied all the time, and I stole whatever I could get my hands on, because we were poor. My parents got divorced, and I remember thinking, nobody is going to tell me what to do. After my dad got thrown out of the house, nobody's going to tell me what to do. And it ended up the opposite was true. Everybody was telling me what to do. The police, the judges, the probation officer, everybody was telling me what to do. And so I started getting into a lot of trouble. I got sent away when I was 15. And I remember thinking, why I'm on the bus going up to this place, and I'm thinking, why am I being sent away? I'm not a bad person. I had good parents, crazy, but good parents. My dad was an alcoholic. He passed away 48 years sober. Good people, gave me good values. I just had this sense that something was wrong with me, that I was just a little bit off as a kid. And I went up to this school, and I was hanging out with the guys outside, on lunch or something like that. One of the guys popped up with a bottle of wine, and they're passing it around. I remember my mom used to always say, "You're going to end up like your father if you start drinking." I probably would have started drinking sooner, but I kept thinking, I don't want to end up like him. Now, kind of, I wish I did. He's got a nice law degree and stuff like that. Me, I did go back to school in sobriety, but wasn't something that I was very interested in. But anyway, at any rate, I'm outside, and they're passing around this bottle of wine, and I take a hit off the thing, and I pass it on, and I feel a little something. I go, "Hey, could I see that back a second?" And I just took it, and I drained it. That bottle became a personal, and everybody's like, "Hey, save some for us," and right away, selfishness, self-centered. Again, I grew up in this poor house where it was every man for himself, type of attitude, and that's how I was with that bottle. I guzzled that bottle of wine, and I immediately went from feeling different, not feeling like I fit in. I didn't like Mike Dixon. I never felt like I was enough, and I never felt like I was funny enough or tough enough to just everything was instantly okay. And that's the way I wanted to feel all the time. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to go to work. I wanted to feel that way all the time, and I wanted to laugh. And my first drink, I got in trouble, went back to class, and I painted the floor purple. I puked all over the place. And, later they took me to the doctor, and they said, "Were you drinking?" I said, No, I wasn't drinking. I had something nasty for lunch. And they're like, "Well, we didn't serve anything purple." I'm like, "Well, you guys figure it out. I wasn't drinking," And they sent me back, and they eventually wrote the courts, and they said, "We can't help them," and they sent me back, and I went back to school. I was in ninth grade now. I go up, and I'm walking up to the school. I met a buddy of mine. He goes, "Come on, Mike, I'll show you where everybody parties." And we went straight to the back of the school, and I was at school every day in ninth grade until they expelled me. I got expelled in the ninth grade. But I was there, and I was there early because I didn't want to miss out on the party behind the school. And then I was gone by the end of homeroom because I just couldn't keep my eyes open anymore. It's kind of tough studying and being highly sedated at the same time. And so, like I said, I got tossed out in ninth grade, and I just kind of felt, I come from a family where everybody goes to school. Everybody graduates. They go to graduate school. They all do something. And getting expelled and not finishing high school was a big deal. I remember my mom yelling at me. What a disappointment I was to her. Now what are you going to do, smart guy? And I went and got a GED. And I started drinking. I was 15. I got sober when I was 25. But prior to drinking, I just remembered needing that attention and needing excitement. Anything I did, it had to have a little flair of excitement to it. Even one time my mom said, "Go clean out the garage." And, I went in the back of the garage, there's all these aerosol cans and says, "Do not puncture or incinerate." And so I'm the curious type. Well, let's see, why not? And so I built a little campfire in the backyard, and I put about 20 cans in the fire. And next thing, I went inside to make a sandwich, and you hear kaboom. And Mom goes, "Go put that fire out." I'm not going near that thing until I hear about 20 more of those things. So. But if you're wondering, that is good advice. Do not incinerate. That's does not belong in a fire. Even when it seemed, I was such a screw up, it seemed like when I was a kid, even when I tried to do something nice, I remember my mom, the only new car we ever got, she was poor. She was a single mother of 6. My dad wasn't sending any money. He wanted to get back together with her, and she didn't want to, so he didn't send any money. So she was working 2 jobs. The only new car she ever got, I remember thinking, let me go wash Mom's car. So I grabbed the Comet cleanser and a bucket, and I went outside. And when I got done with the car, that thing looked like it was 15 years old. And she's yelling at me. She's like, "Look what you did to my car." And, I tried to do something nice for somebody, and that's how it turns out. And how do you explain that to somebody? I don't know, So I started drinking. Drinking just smoothed everything out. And it wasn't like, Alcoholics Anonymous has the same effect on me as drinking did, except all the negative stuff that would happen. The only problem with Alcoholics Anonymous is it takes time. The thing that I loved about alcohol, it was instant. If I felt uncomfortable, I took a couple drinks and everything was just smoothed out. And that's the way I wanted to feel all the time, you know. But I started having some problems getting along. My problem was I couldn't get along out there. You know, like I said, even if I tried to do something nice, I inadvertently somehow people would end up getting irritated by my actions. You know, and I'll give you an example. Prior to coming to AA, I was a tree climber. If I worked, I was a tree climber, and we did this job for this old lady. And we finished it. She was happy. She's all smiling. Oh, boys, you did a great job. Would you like something to drink? Of course. It's August. It's hot. It's Jersey. She goes, all I have is this old scotch. Would you like some? And I remember thinking, break it out, Granny. And she comes out with a fifth of scotch and these two big water glasses. And me and my buddy are there. I pour one. I hand it to him. I slurp this up. And I'm pouring the second one. And I just wiped the smile right off her face. That became inverted into a frown. And I'm looking at her, and, you know, we're all alkies here, so we have that sense of, you know, the mood's changing. We better wrap things up before, you know, it gets a little bit worse, you know. And so within just a couple of minutes, there's a little splash left in that bottle. I go, here, I'll finish that for you. She goes, give me that thing, all angry, and now get out of here, you know, and I'm driving away with my friend, and I asked her, I go, what the hell got her so angry? I didn't understand the effect I had on people. I was like a bad rash, like an irritant that wouldn't go away, and it just seemed to come naturally, you know, but I could defend my actions. I told my friend, I go, you know, if she didn't want us to drink the whole thing, why wouldn't she just say, don't drink it all? It never occurred to me that normal drinkers don't hand two guys a fifth of scotch and say, don't drink it all. They just assume that you can't or you're not gonna. You know, the other thing I had a problem with was she handed us these big water glasses. She implied, help yourself, which I did. What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? And I'm like confused all the time. Why is everybody always giving me a hard time? You know, I'm a nice guy, just trying to fit in, you know, doing my thing. And I'm always getting, you know, I always seem to be rubbing people the wrong way, you know. And when I started drinking at 15, my dad started getting sober. So there was always a big book around the house, you know, and my mom took us to Alateen because she, you know, saw the behavior of her kids and figured, you know, they may one day need Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, and God bless my mother. She hung around and she really did a good job with 6 crazy kids, you know, and if that was me, if I had 6 kids like she had, I would have run away from home. You know, I wouldn't have hung around and put up with any of that crap. You know, and we had this, you know, we were dirt poor. We had no money. There was 4 of us in one bedroom. And one morning I get up and someone goes, who's got the weed? And, you know, we don't even get out of bed and we're throwing a joint from bed to bed. My mom's room's right next door. She hears the whole thing and the door barges on. She's like, you drug addicts, look at you. You're not even out of bed yet. And, you know, here's a lady that grew up very affluently, you know, and married an alcoholic and now was paying the price for marrying an alcoholic. But the, you know, let me talk a little bit about drugs. You know, so I hear people say I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict and stuff like that. And, you know, that's kind of like saying I'm going to go swimming in the water. I really don't need to restate it. What I want to do here is I want to fit in. I'm an alcoholic and I did drugs too. And let me explain kind of what the drugs are for me. You know, so if I'm hungry and someone hands me a plain hot dog, you know, I'm going to eat it. But I prefer the hot dog with the condiments on it. And that's what the drugs were for the alcohol. I preferred the alcohol with the condiments, you know. And for anybody that's a vegan, you can replace that example with a veggie dog, you know. So that was me. I had whatever I did, I drank, and I enjoyed the condiments that went along with the drinking, you know. And so I started it started out being fun. My drinking started out being fun. I fit in, I'm young, it's cute, you're funny, you're doing this, there's a lot going on. And then I start having problems, and and the police want to talk to you about certain things, and, misbehaving, and, they were inviting me over to their place, and I would decline, but they would insist, and I started struggling, and my mom threw me out of the house. She's like, you know what? You want to do it your way? Get out. It's time for you to go. I'm like, but I'm not even 18 yet. She threw me out. I think I was like 16 years old. She said, get out. And I'm like, well, where am I going to go? And she was in this church, and she's like, you need a kind of a male influence to, kick your ass and kind of cool you off a little bit. I guess, I don't know. And so she finds this guy. She's like, go live with him. He's a friend of ours, really nice guy. And I go over there, and she's like, oh, Mike, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. Welcome. Here's your room. This is your home. And I'm like, whoa, this guy is really cool. And a little bit later, I'm there for a couple hours. I go, I'm going to go out a little bit, be back later. I go out, do a little partying, meet a little honey. I bring her back for a workout. Mind you, this guy's a big Jesus freak, right? And so I'm giving this chick a workout in the bedroom, and the pounded on the door. I cannot have this in my house. Within just a matter of hours, this guy went from liking me to throwing me out of his house, and that seemed to be, it just was always another misunderstanding, another problem, and back to my mother, Mom, where's the tough guy go when the chips are down? Back to his mother, and I remember, so I end up starting to think, Dad's an alcoholic. I get this alcohol thing. I really didn't understand what alcoholism was. I saw what it did to my dad. He's an attorney, very smart guy, and there he is camping out in the backyard. And I'm like, I didn't know he was all hungover and stuff. I'm just a kid, and I'm like, hey, Dad, if I knew you were camping out, man, I would have brought you an air mattress. Shut up, you little asshole. Or, I had problems with trust. I remember when I was a kid, I'd come out of my room, and there's my mom with a gallon pitcher of ice water. I mean, ice cubes in it and stuff like that. And, my dad's going to lose another job. And she's like, she's the kid. She's afraid to wake him up because he's going to hit her. And she goes, here, go pour this on your father. And I'm like, yeah, that ought to be funny. And I toss it on the old man. He's all drunk and passed out. And next thing I know, I was like kicking the tiger. He got up, and so I had some trust issues. I didn't trust adults. I really didn't trust a whole lot of stuff. And so I had a lot of issues, and I started thinking, all my friends were doing something. They're in school, they're finishing high school, they're talking about college, or they're going off to the service and stuff. And I'm like, I should join the Navy. I bet if I join the Navy, I'm going to straighten things out. Part of my problem was I believed my own BS. I told myself I'm going to do it. I believe I'm going to do it. I even see myself in a uniform in the Navy. And I go down and I talk to the recruiter, and he goes, I just turned 18. He goes, did you have any problems as juvenile? I go, yeah, probably had a few. He goes, well, we're going to have to see your record. And I'm like, wow. Let me get back to you on that. And I see my old man, and he says, we'll go to the courts and we'll seal your record. And so we went to the courts and we sealed the records. And I went back to the recruiter, and he goes, I go, no, he can't see them now. They're sealed. He goes, well, you're going to have to unseal them. And I'm thinking, this guy's supposed to be a nice guy, and he's a pain in the ass. I got a feeling I am not going to be a good fit for the Navy. And so, I didn't make it into the Navy, and I started having a lot of problems and thinking, how can alcohol be my problem? I don't have an education, or I don't have job skills, or, this or that. There's all sorts of other issues. The last thing I wanted was to have a drinking problem, because my dad went to AA. I know if you go to AA, they stop drinking. And the alcohol was still working for me. It appeared to be still working for me. And people would say to me, that's the other thing I didn't understand, was people would say to me, Mike, why do you drink? You get crazy. You shouldn't drink. You shouldn't drink, or you shouldn't drink so much. And it looked like alcohol was my problem. And certainly from somebody that's seeing my actions, it looked like alcohol was my problem. Alcohol wasn't my problem. When I stopped drinking, I got uncomfortable. People just became more irritating. I couldn't get along out there. Jobs just seemed to be too demanding. It's just one problem after another. I couldn't stay sober. I could not imagine life without alcohol. And I even went to an alcoholism counselor and I go, how do you know if you're an alcoholic or not? And he goes, try going 5 days without drinking. And at this point, I'm sharing a house with 4 other guys, and I made it 4.5 days. And I started, well, I think we're close enough. Not an alcoholic. I got 5 days, not an alcoholic, and it started again, the problems, the losing the jobs, the people mad at you, the police inviting you over to their place, all sorts of stuff like that. And there was a rehab in Bergen Pines, New Jersey, drug and alcohol rehab, and I went in for 30 days, and I knew, and by the way, that rehab, there was no big book, no 12 and 12. This is back in like 1980. All there was, someone came by towards the end of my 30 days with a big stack of AA grapevines, and I read some of the grapevines. But I remember being in that rehab thinking, yeah, all right, drugs and alcohol are my problem. I get it. I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to turn my life around, But I remember the guys from H&I came in, and they're sitting on the beds across from us. They're talking to the guys in here, and they're in their ties. They look good, their jackets, and they're talking about their lives, how it was and how it is now. And I was just looking at them thinking, there is no way I'm going to get to where you are from where I am. I just thought it was impossible. I just thought the gap that they were talking about was too wide, and there just felt like there was something different about me. I don't know what it was, but I just felt like, AA is great that it works for you guys, but there's something different about me. I don't know what it is. I've been to plenty of shrinks. They seem to have no idea. It didn't help that I didn't offer them any help and stuff. In fact, I was, as a kid, one-on-one with Mr. Gottlieb. Me and my brothers were court-ordered to go to family counseling with my mom to the shrinks. And then later, I was court-ordered to go to like group therapy with all these other guys, which that actually was kind of cool because we would meet like an hour or so early and drop some acid and then go in to see the shrink. And so we were always in pretty cheerful mood when we were talking with her and kind of seeing things zipping by and stuff. But, so I never gave the psychiatrist a chance, but I was always just, operating in a state of fear and confusion and not knowing what's wrong with me and kind of resenting the fact that everybody else seemed to be able to get along out there. And so I get into this rehab, 30 days sober, I get out, I go back to the house, and all the guys, I didn't tell anybody I went into rehab. They're like, Mike, where have you been? I'm like, I had to go out of town and do some stuff, blah, 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 and finally it came out, I was in a rehab, and I'm going to stop drinking. And I started pointing out the fact that all you guys are probably alcoholics too. These are my 4 roommates. And they didn't appreciate that at all, And so 30 days later, I started drinking again. They were calling me a born-again alcoholic, And I learned one thing this time, keep my mouth shut and just be an example. Keep my mouth shut and just be an example, And I started going to AA during that 60-day period, and they're like, you got to move out of that house. You're going to drink. They're a bunch of drunks. You're going to end up drunk just like them. And so I moved into the backseat of my girlfriend's car in Jersey in January, and it was freezing. She would come out at like 5 or 6 in the morning because she didn't want her mom finding her homeless boyfriend in the back of her car, and it was awful, at least. And I made one excuse after another why sobriety isn't for me. At least when I was drinking, I had a roof over my head and stuff. Her mother, by the way, I had to make an amends to her. She was, she didn't like me, and so you don't like me, I'm not going to like you back. She would let me inside, but with her daughter, but she would never invite me to dinner or say, would you like something to drink? She kind of had the attitude like, if you feed the dog, it'll never go away, And so, my thinking is always, how can I kind of treat you the same way you're treating me? And everybody was treating me poorly, and she was this big lady. She liked the desserts. And so the first thing I would do is head straight for the fridge, grabbed the whipped cream can and just sucked the nitrous out of the whipped cream can. And I remember her one night, it just dripping onto her dessert going, God damn it, this is the third bad can of whipped cream I've had this week. And I kind of was that type of guy that if I was laughing, you weren't, and if you were laughing, I wasn't. Again, I did not know how to get along. And so that started 3 years of in and out of Alcoholics Anonymous. I could not stay sober. I could not understand what alcoholism was. I didn't want to really stop drinking. I wanted all these problems. I wanted what everybody else seemed to have. The problem was I wasn't willing to put in the effort. I was kind of like the guy that said, give me the fire and then I'll put the wood in. I want to see that it works before I put the effort in, And those were the most miserable 3 years of my life. And I ended up going to this rehab in Denver called Senecor. And let me tell you, so I've been in 2 rehabs. The first one was awful and the second one was worse. So I go to my mom and, she wants to talk to me. She said, let me take you out to lunch. And so I'm like, all right. She's taking me out to lunch. So it's free alcohol, free food. Let me kind of be cool. I'll drink like a gentleman. So I had a couple of martinis before lunch, a small bottle of white wine at lunch, and some Sambuca in my coffee for dessert. And, we finished lunch. My mom looks at me and goes, have you thought about going into another rehab? I couldn't believe, why would you say something like that to me? I couldn't believe she said that to me. It's when someone points out my alcoholism, I have this sense that maybe I'm overdoing it a little bit, but I really don't appreciate when somebody points it out to me that, yeah, you sure are. So anyway, a couple weeks later, I go, yeah, maybe I am an alcoholic. And she goes, you certainly are. And so there's this 2-year drug and alcohol program called Senecor in Denver. It would be great for you. And I'm flying on the plane out there, and I've been in a rehab for 30 days, and that was horrible. I'm thinking 2 years is going to be brutal, undoable, most likely. And I get out there, and rehab's got all these rules. One of the rules was you can't say anything negative. So I'm new, I got nothing positive to say. They're basically saying, shut up, and that ain't gonna happen. I got a big mouth, I'm from Jersey, we don't shut up a whole lot, and so right away, I started having some problems. And the other thing that really got me was, they get you sober for 30 days, and then they find you a job, and you got to turn your week's pay over to the house to pay for your room and board. Now, again, I didn't work much prior to AA, and quite frankly, I believed I was bred for leisure. I did not feel like a worker type, you know what I mean? And then to work all week was one thing, but then to turn my puny little check over to these guys was just, that's not something I have any interest in doing for very long. And I got I was about 60 days sober, and I go up to the head of the place, I go, I don't think I belong here. He goes, get out. I'm like, what? It's Denver. It's Thursday night. I remember it was a light rain falling. I'm like, get out. I got no money. I got to make arrangements. Like, get out. You're a bad influence. Get out. And they had to physically throw me out, and my 2 Glad bags full of stuff. They threw me out on the street in Denver. And the book talks about a higher power, and I believe my higher power put this guy in my life that night. I remember standing on the corner, wanting to drink as bad as I've ever wanted to drink in my life. I got 2 brothers here in California getting sober, and they say if you can get out to the airport, there'll be a plane ticket waiting for you. I have no idea where I am, where the airport is, anything like that. And I believe God put this guy in my life that night. Here comes this guy staggering down the street with a half-full 6 and an open bottle of beer, and he goes, do you want one? And I wanted a beer as bad as I ever wanted a drink in my life. But I knew if I took that drink, I was just going to be just like him, staggering around the streets of Denver looking for another drink. And I knew where I was coming from, and I didn't want to go back there. I had no idea going forward where I was going, and it was terrifying, but it was a little bit better, not much better, but it was a little bit better than where I came from. And I said, no, can you get me to the airport? There's a ticket, and I'm going to fly out to LA. And he goes, hang out with me tonight. The book talks about seeking out lower companions, of which, if you see a guy standing on a corner in a light rain, with a couple of Glad bags in his hands. He's most likely a lower companion. Bald as an eagle, too. They shaved all my head off. The only thing I had was eyebrows, so he goes, hang out with me and I'll make sure you get to the airport. And I got to watch an active alcoholic, tell me about all his problems. He's losing his company. His kids don't respect him. His wife wants a divorce. All the problems that we face when we drink, that we do to ourselves as a result of our drinking. And I got to hear this, and it just reinforced my idea that I don't want to drink. I don't want to drink. I don't know what I want, but I don't want to drink. And I got out to California. And my brother, I was really hostile, really angry. And what it is, they say alcohol is just a symptom of another problem. And so is anger. Anger is just a symptom of another problem. And what it is fear. I was afraid of the future. I had been an absolute failure for 25 years of my life, just blew up my life. And here I am now. I got to put it all back together. And I want to put it back together in 2 weeks. I mean, I'll give it 3, but I'm really, that's the problem with Alcoholics Anonymous. It moves so slow. And so... I get out here and my brother's taking me around to meetings, and he's young, he's like 18, and he's taking me to the meetings where all the girls are, for dates and stuff like this. I can't talk to anybody. I just kind of lean on the wall and kind of growl and grunt, and, I call my uncle, wonderful guy, sober a long time, and he goes, I'm telling him what's going on. He goes, call Clancy. And I called my friend Clancy, and he took me to the meeting, Wednesday night meeting, Saturday night, and he introduced me around. I couldn't believe all of the welcome I got. Everybody's, Mike, we're glad you're here. We're glad you're here. And I had no idea. Why are you glad I'm here? I had no idea what the hell they're talking about. It's like, this is kind of weird. All these happy people greeting me and stuff like that. But I had nowhere else to go. Thank God I had nowhere else to go, and I started... But I have a tremendously negative head, and I remember I got this sponsor, and he was big on service work. He was big on service work. Every time I complained to him about something, he'd be like, you need to get on the cleanup commitment, or you need to get on the setup commitment, and we talk about a spiritual awakening here in Alcoholics Anonymous. And for me, my spiritual awakening was, I said yes. I didn't agree with much of what was being told to me, but I said yes to everything. You need to get on the setup commitment or the cleanup. Okay. And I'd go to him with a problem, and he'd be like, you should probably be doing the coffee pots. And I'm like, this freaking guy's annoying. I got all these problems, and I went up to him one night, and with a problem. It's one of those, nuclear explosion type things, and really it's probably like an ant ran across my shoe or something, how we blow things up, right? And so he goes, Mike, tonight's your lucky night. This meeting needs a GSR, and you're it. and I'm walking away, I'm like, geez, I got to quit talking to this guy. And he goes, as I'm walking away, he goes, oh yeah, by the way, that's a 2-year commitment. And I did service, and I just got back into become GSR of our Sunday night meeting. Nobody else wanted to pick it up, but it's really important because GSO, there's so much more than just our meetings going on outside. Alcoholics Anonymous is huge, international, national. It's just, I've been all over the country at meetings. I love Alcoholics Anonymous, but it's important that our voices are heard when they're making policy. And it used to be 30 years ago, you could call up and they would call your delegate and they would say something. But now it's pretty much everything has to go through your GSR. If there's no GSR, your group doesn't have a voice. So I went to our meeting, our Sunday night meetings, probably like 50 people there. Hey guys, who wants to be the GSR? All right, looks like I'm the GSR. So I'm still doing what I learned when I was new, just saying, okay, it needs to get done. It's really important. I'm going to do it, so I'm the GSR. I went to a GSR meeting and stuff. But anyway, so real quick, I didn't go from, it was really tough in the beginning. He said, I got 5 minutes left. So let me just talk about being new, because I saw a lot of new guys here. I had this job. My brother got me this job at the Coffee Spot in Santa Monica. I was sleeping on his floor, no car, no money. I'm making $4 an hour. $4 an hour, and he's charging me rent, and I got to buy my own food and stuff. But I was making it. I was careful where I spent the money and stuff, and the owner of the company comes up to me and goes, 6 months sober. I'm there 3 months, maybe in 4 months. And she goes, Mike, I'm going to have to let you go. I go, why? She goes, you argue with everybody. I go, they argue with me. What am I supposed to do? I had no idea how to get along with people. The reality of it was, she was paying me $4 an hour. The reality of it was, I should have been paying her $40 an hour to let me be there. I was like customer repellent, I took everything personal. Someone said, hey, did anybody see my pen? I didn't take it. Right away, I'm always thinking I'm being accused of something. I'm always on the defense, and the other thing, I'm just wound up so tight. I didn't know how to live a sober life. I'd been 10 years drinking, really drinking. I was enthusiastic. I loved alcohol, and I was enthusiastic drinking, and I loved the condiments that went along with the alcohol, and so it was really tough when I was new, and just to learn how to start getting along with people and how to start laughing at myself. And one of the things was, I really felt bad about myself. When I was out there, it was like, you got a decision. I didn't have a lot of money, so it was a decision. Do I go to the dentist or do I get cocaine? Cocaine. So the smile wasn't the best, and I was at the yard playing softball, sober softball, and I'm gritting as I'm rounding third, and someone yells out, don't let him bite you, and and Alcoholics Anonymous taught me how to laugh at myself, and just laugh at, not take things so seriously, have some fun. Because what I realized, it talks about it in the book, that it wasn't until I'm in AA that I realized how lethal our disease is, and how lucky I am to be here and to be a part of you guys and to be around this thing and to be able to participate, and contribute. What's that? It says life will take on new meaning. The promises, life will take on new meaning, and it really has. Today I feel useful. Guys that knew me when I was drinking, like my brother, if they said, hey, describe Mike in a couple of words, they would probably say he was a useless piece of flesh. And today I'm I fit in. This month I'll be married 34 years. My daughter's going to medical school. My wife said, I've been paying for school ever since my daughter's been alive. She's been in private school. And my wife said, you've done such a good job paying for her undergraduate school. Why don't you pay for her medical school too? And I'm kind of getting a little old here. I wouldn't mind retiring one of these days. Nah, your higher power wants you to go to work and be of service. Been listening to tapes too much, but I am truly grateful to be sober, and just, a couple of fun things, over the years. It isn't just go to meetings, go to work and stuff. We've really had a lot of fun. There was a lot of guys that we got sober together, and we're all still sober. We're all looking at late 30s, early 40s, late to sobriety. We're all sober a long time. We got good, stable homes today, and I really love there's so much anxiety associated with the instability of being an active alcoholic. Today, I've got a sober, stable life. I got a car to drive. Back in the day, the paperwork used to be optional. It's no longer optional. Everything's paid for. I got a roof over my head. I know where I'm going to eat. I really have a nice life. And, I get to watch my daughter grow up. She's a good kid. And I don't know how the hell I'm going to pay for this and that. Medical school is a big cost. But, for a guy that's got expelled from school to be able to do as well as I've had and think, well, maybe I can do it. It's just, somehow it all seems to work out. If I don't start looking way down the road, because that's just overwhelming. I just want to quit, but if I focus on what I'm supposed to do today and in all things, give thanks, be thankful. Here I am today, I'm sober. I haven't drank, I haven't thought about drinking in years, probably decades, because I'm just too busy, in Alcoholics Anonymous, and as a result, you guys, especially you new guys, man, I really, really hope you make it, get involved, and be patient, be patient. what we have here is absolutely an unbelievable way to live. The alcohol, yeah, it seemed like the answer was instant. This answer sometimes takes a little bit, and sometimes even in the beginning, it felt like I was kind of falling backwards, you know. But I just, no matter what, I stayed here, and as a result, you know, things are pretty cool. Things got a ton of friends. You know, leave you one more thing. It says in the big book that our greatest joy in life will be the new people and the friends we make in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and that is so true. I'm glad to be here, you guys. Thank you.
All right, let's give Mike another round of applause.